Hey guys, Ashley here with HeartHookHome.com, and today we are ready to start on part 2 of the Spring Vest Crochet Along. So for part 1, you are supposed to have already finished part 1, which ends at whatever row it tells you to end for your specific size. So in order to start part 2, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the pattern, see what size we are working on, and count how many clusters they need to be on either side. So for the extra large size, there are 23 clusters in. So I've counted 23, and this is my 23rd cluster. So I went ahead and put a stitch marker just in the top right here. So this is number 23. Now from this side, I've counted 23 in, and I've marked it with a stitch marker here. So those are the 23rd from each side. Make sure that you count based on the size that you are making. When you get those stitch markers placed, those are the armhole openings. That is how wide, the area in between your two stitch markers here, this is how wide your back is going to be. These are your armholes, okay? So in order to start the first panel here, we're going to call them panels. There's a right panel, a center panel, and a left panel. So this one that we're getting ready to start is going to be your right panel. And really, we're doing the same pattern that we've been doing the whole entire time, except we're going to stop when we get to this stitch marker instead of going all the way across the row. So we're still attached. At the end of part 1, you should not have fastened off. You've still got your working yarn over here ready to continue on. So we're going to start this new row like we have been the whole time. So I'm starting a new cluster row, so I'm going to chain 4, and I'm going to look at the back side. Let's flip my work. It's a little harder when your piece gets that big, huh? Okay, so I've done my chain 4 and I've turned. Now I am ready to do my clusters. So I'm going to just do my clusters as I have been the entire pattern, and when I get to that stitch marker, I'm going to stop. And when we get to our stitch marker, we are going to place our 23rd or last cluster in where this goes, right in that stitch marker. So I'm going to place my last cluster for this size right in the same as where that stitch marker is coming out. So I'm going to do my last cluster, which for the size that you're making, you should have however many you marked in. So for the extra large size, I did 23. This is number 23, okay? So you are doing the full amount of clusters all the way into this side. Now, we're not going to end with the cluster because we still need to have that bracketing double crochet. So do one more chain and do one double crochet in the same space. Just like that. Now, all we're going to do is the same pattern that we've been doing the entire time, but it's only going to be this width, and we're going to go for the designated number of rows. So for the extra large size, I will be going from here to row 48. So I'm going to just continue on, and then we will work on the center part together. So in order to start a crossed double crochet row, I'm going to do my chain 3 and then turn my work, and I'm only going back these 23 clusters. All right, I have finished my right panel. So as you can see, this is part 1 here, and then this portion here is my right panel. So I'm completed with that. I've gone ahead and fastened off. You do not need to leave a long tail for this side. This is just where I clipped it. We are ready to start on the center, which is the back of the vest. So go ahead and flip it to how you're looking at it. What you just completed is literally on the right side, right? Since that is the right. Now we are going to start on the center. So you want to make sure that you have it laid out like this. This is your other stitch marker right here. So now we are going to crochet between this one and this one, just along this portion here. So go ahead and remove that stitch marker from the first row, or the first part there. we are going to attach our yarn in the same space as where the right side ended. Okay, so this is where our stitch marker was, and we are going to continue crocheting from there. So go ahead and pull up a loop. I do like to leave a little bit of a yarn tail here because at the end we'll use that to cinch up any holes here, which you shouldn't have any, but I just like to leave a little bit of a longer tail just in case. So in order to start the center, we are going to chain 4. Now we are going to skip. We're not going to go into the same where we came out of. We're only going to have the center chain come out of there. Let me move that yarn to the back. Now I'm going to just continue with my clusters in the next open chain space. So I'm going to make a cluster here, just as we have been the whole time. Okay, so as you can see, this tail needs to be pulled a little bit. We have a chain 4, went into that next cluster. Now I'm going to do my chain 2, cluster, chain 2, cluster, as we have been the whole pattern until we get to that other stitch marker. When you get to close to the stitch marker, I want you to count your clusters to make sure that you have the correct amount of clusters, because in this last stitch marker here, we are only going to place 1 double crochet, okay, so that the side over here matches the side over here. So I want you to count your clusters in the middle. Your chain is always going to get a little bit loose like this. It's just because we attached with a chain. Just kind of pull it if you need to, and that's why I like to leave a longer tail to weave it in well. Okay. So for the extra large size that I am making, my back should have 18 clusters. No, 20 clusters. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that is perfect. So if you are making the extra large size also, you need to make sure that you have 20 clusters as your center or the back. Now when you get done with those clusters, you still have to make it all the way to your stitch marker here. So now that I have my 20 clusters, I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to double crochet where my stitch marker is. So I'm going to put 1 double crochet there. And that is the first row of the center. Now I'm just going to do my chains, do my crossed double crochets all the way back, and I'm going to continue the clusters and cross double crochets until I reach the top of the end of the center portion. One thing to note is make sure to read the pattern for this one, because the center portion is a little bit taller, so more rows than the right and the left will have, and it's just so that it hangs better in the back. But make sure that you look at how many rows you are supposed to do in this portion. So now I've made it to my stitch marker. I've done my chain 3 to turn. I'm just going to do my crossed double crochets all the way across this row, and I will continue with just how we've been doing this whole time until I get finished with the number of rows as designated for the size extra large. So finish your center back, and then we will start on the left side here in just a little bit, and that's going to be it for the most part. So I'm going to go ahead and continue my center back, and I will hook up with you all when I get ready to start my left panel. All right, here I am finished with the center, which is the back of the vest. I am going to fasten off here after I'm finished with my row, but I need to leave a little bit of a longer tail. We're going to use this yarn tail to help sew in our shoulders to create our shoulder seams. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail long enough for me to do that sewing with confidence. So let me fasten off, make myself a little knot here. And now we are ready to start on the left. So the left is basically the same exact thing as the right, except we're going to start it a little bit differently, okay? So we have the right here that we've already completed. This is the center, which is the back of our vest, and then this is going to be the left. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the first or the last stitch here of our center piece, and we're going to remove that stitch marker. So this is the last stitch marker we have in place. Now what we're going to do, let me get my yarn ready. We're going to insert our hook into the same space as where the center ended, okay? So we are going to pull up a loop. We are going to do a chain 4, and we're going to do a cluster in the same space. So go ahead and do your cluster in the same space, and this way it will mirror the other side. Awesome. Now we're going to chain 2, move my tail out of the way, and I'm going to complete making these clusters. I'm going to continue making these clusters all the way to the end of the row. And this is all there is. So all that you need to know is for video purposes, for starting the left, is that you do your chain 4 and you do your cluster in the same space as where you ended the center. We are going to continue making our clusters in the same manner. You are going to have the same number of rows on the left as you did on the right. So continue making your cluster rows and your crossed double crochet rows until it tells you to stop for the size that you are making. And then all we have left to do after we finish this left is to sew our shoulders together for the designated number of times or stitches based on the size that you are making. So I'm going to continue making my left, and then we will sew the shoulders together and we will be finished with our spring vest. All right, this is my last row of the left. So this is my last stitch of the entire vest apart from sewing. I'm going to fasten off, leaving a long enough tail to sew the shoulders shut. You don't need a whole lot, but just enough. Leave yourself, oh, I don't know, at least 12 inches or so. Fasten off, pull that through. Okay, once we are done, we are going to lay out our vest, our piece, so that we are looking at the inside. And what the inside is, if you read the pattern notes, the double crochet rows are the right side and the crisscross rows that we just completed are the wrong side. So you want to have your tails off to the left here. That will make sure, if you are right-handed anyway, that will make sure that you are looking at it at the correct position. So I'm going to take my side here and I'm going to fold it in so that I've got my armhole here. This is my armhole, and we are going to sew the top together for a little bit. Each size has a different amount of stitches to sew. Right now I'm doing the extra large, so I am going to sew my shoulders together for a width of 5 clusters. So I went ahead and fed my yarn needle. Let me make sure my other part of the vest isn't falling off here. So let's zoom in, and we are going to sew these together. Okay, so I'm going to pull this. This is the left that I just completed. I'm going to pull that down just a little bit, and I'm going to fold the back down so that I can line these up nicely. And for the extra large, I'm going to sew them together for the width of 5 clusters. So here's 1 cluster, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I am going to finish sewing here, right? I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to do stitch for stitch all the way until I get right here, and then I'm going to fasten off and be completely done. So I've got my yarn coming out of the last stitch here. I'm going to find the corresponding stitch over here, and I'm just going to sew these together, stitch for stitch. All right, this is going to be my last stitch. And now you can go ahead and use your yarn needle and weave in all of your ends. I would weave in this end super securely because this is where a lot of the weight of the vest is going to be right on these stitches here. So I'm going to sew these together nice and securely. Just a few extra stitches here and there, and I'm going to make sure that as I weave in this end that it's getting super woven in. Okay, so I've secured those stitches pretty well. Now I'm just going to weave in my ends here to make sure that it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to go over to the other side and do the same thing. So now this is our left shoulder, and that is completely sewn together. Everything is finished on that side. So now we've got our nice big armhole that looks nice and inviting. I just want to stick my arm right there at okay, let's look at this other side. So here is the left side. We've got that ready to go. Now we've got the right side, which we completed first, technically. And here we are ready to sew that shoulder together. So I'm going to move this down, fold this down, line this up. I'm going to use this tail. Remember how we left a long tail when we finished our center? This is the tail that I'm going to use to sew up my right shoulder. So I'm going to sew these together for the same number of stitches for 5 clusters width. And then what we'll have in the middle here, this is going to be our neck opening, and then we will be completely done with the vest. This is actually the easiest vest thing ever, easiest vest pattern ever, because we don't have to add a border, we don't have to add a edging, we don't have to add anything else. So I'm going to finish sewing these together, and I will show you my completed vest when I am finished. I hope you all enjoyed this crochet along. I enjoy them as always, and I am looking forward to creating more with you soon. I'm going to finish sewing and I'll show you my finished project. Thanks for crocheting with me, guys. I'll see you soon.